order. It's 7:02. I need to read my little script, but I'll try to abbreviate. I see we have Ann, Library Director. We're waiting for Dimitri. Jeff Arnold, Recording Secretary, Reference Staff Member. I see with us Kay Cahill, Trustee Riccardi, Trustee Tom Harkins, Trustee Rob Pettit, Trustee, and Jay Fialkov, Trustee. I see Danielle, and I see Joan Smith and Jan Drake from the LFN. So I think we're good except for Dimitri, and we will begin. My little script is to announce that this meeting is an open meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees being held remotely by order of Governor Baker, by order allowing it to be official, an official meeting virtually. And I'm going to skip over some of this, but this, just so you all know, and anyone listening knows, this meeting is being recorded, and all participants are participating in the meeting remotely.
And Dimitri is now here since when you started.
You know what's funny? I was here and I kept on saying, but I'm here. What are you talking about? I'm not sure what link I hit, but then I got out and redid it. So yes, I've been here. I could hear you. I appreciate it.
So all participants should know that others can see you, and please don't screen share your computer because anything you broadcast may be captured as part of the recording. Let's see, I'll try to keep this discussion moving so we can sort of stay on time tonight. I'll try to be the one to recognize each speaker if possible, although I do like the more informal approach if we can manage it without confusing each other and anyone listening in. Please try to speak clearly so that it's easier for Jeff to record the minutes and for others to hear you. Please try to mute yourself when you're not speaking. When I have to have a vote, I will do that by calling on each of you individually so that there's a record. And the only other thing is, if there should be a blip and this meeting fails for technological reasons to come to conclusion, I'd like to vote on our next meeting, and we will just go to the next meeting if that should happen, the second Tuesday of September at 7 o'clock with a Zoom ID number, the same as this one. And that, I think, is it for that formality. And I'd like to go first to the minutes. We have a backlog of minutes to look at. First of all, our May 27th meeting minutes, which was our first meeting since our March meeting due to the COVID shutdown and the cancellation of our April meeting and delay of our May meeting until the 27th of the month. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes that were circulated for that meeting?
I went over them all, and I wanted to thank Jeff for doing a very thorough and well-written job on these. They're excellent, and I didn't have any changes that I noticed. So if anyone else does.
Which meeting is this?
The 27th of May.
Okay.
The first set of meeting minutes to be reviewed tonight. I had a couple of little things on page 2, paragraph 3A. Let's see. Oh, the last sentence in 3A, Carol noted that some of the, and it says library state funding. I think it was really state funding for libraries went to enhancing digital services. Instead of libraries, state funding, it was state funding for libraries. So it wasn't our state funding.
It's the last sentence of that paragraph.
Right, the last one, and it referred to state funding for libraries generally within Massachusetts, went to digital enhancement. Page 8. Number 9, let's give, in the first line, let's give Gay Ellen credit for trying to find a way to return Nancy's artwork. That Gay Ellen is trying to find a way to return in the first line there. And page 9, number 12. In the middle of the paragraph, the LFN has supported activities like Overdrive, Advantage, etc. I don't believe LFN is supporting it now. I think that's coming out of state aid now. So let's just make it a past credit. Is that clear enough? That's all I have.
Would you go over that foundation one again? I'm not clear on it.
Oh, in the middle, it says what the LFN has funded on page 9.
Yeah.
It says the LFN supports activities like, but
Have Advantage. Let's see.
yeah, I'd like to say they supported, has supported
Friends.
instead of supports, just because some of that is not current.
Okay.
They're not permitted to keep repetitively funding certain programs according to bylaws, their bylaws. Do I have a motion to accept these minutes as amended?
Move to accept the minutes of 5/27.
Second.
Second, thank you, Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, let me go around. I hear Rob, I hear Rick, I hear
Jay.
Jay,
Okay.
Kay, me.
Tom.
Okay, Tom. So I think we're good. Thank you. And Anna is missing, so not voting. Next set of minutes. And it was adopted. Just make a note. The next set of minutes is for June 9th. And I asked if anybody had any changes to those minutes.
Move to accept. Second.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Let me just go around. Jay.
Aye.
Can we just, Jay, let's just go by the pictures, huh? All in, any opposed? No, being none, the motion carries. Thank you. Third set of minutes, July 14th. Are there any proposed changes?
I have a comment
Go ahead, Tom.
on the thing about Greg. And I would say, it says the letter will be attached. Well, the reason the letter's, the thing's not attached is because I forgot all about it, didn't send it in.
Oh, well.
So I will do that now, but this, you know, I wrote it, I'm writing it down now. You know, but that's what I had failed to do.
Okay. All right, so maybe we should just remove from the,
Oh, no, just say, you know, no, I'm making a comment because the minutes are correct, they're not attached because I never sent it in.
But I have something, Tom, already.
Really?
You must have given it to me because I filed it in the big trustee book.
Okay, but it's not mentioned in it's not attached to the, is it?
It's not attached to
I
this.
didn't attach it, no.
It's not attached. I got a copy of it and then I summarized it in the minutes rather than attach it directly.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine as long as you're happy with that. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's good.
Never mind. Yeah.
You're okay.
Could I please have a vote on that? All in favor? Kay,
I,
Rick,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is our director's report for July and August. Anne?
And first, I would like you to vote on accepting the gift list.
Do I hear a motion?
I move.
Rick? And a second.
second, accept the gift list.
Thank you, Kay. All in favor? Okay, let's go down the list. Okay.
Maybe you should stick with your anyone opposed approach.
Let's just make it for the record. Kay,
Yes.
Rick,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Jay.
Aye.
Thank you, me too. It's unanimous, thank you. That motion carries. Go ahead, Anne.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on anything in my report from personnel through the gift list? Because everything else comes at a point in the agenda. That's the only part that isn't. So it's the first 8 pages.
Yes.
First
I
7.5.
I just wanted to say that, acknowledge that, you know, your announcement, Stephanie Clayton is leaving, and wanted to find out like when that's happening and what the plan is, and, you know, how it's affecting library operations.
Stephanie's last day will be August 31st. So how it is affecting our operations, we will have a vacancy. Vacancies don't get filled right away. We learn to work without them for a while. And then we rejoice when they are filled.
There are no special requirements from the town to get special approvals to replace a position like some companies are doing in terms of hiring freezes. Do you have an issue with the town where you're not authorized to go forward to replace the position?
I have to get permission. I have filled out all the paperwork and I just await permission to start the ball rolling.
So it has not been posted yet?
No.
Okay.
Will that be a difficult position to fill?
I don't believe it will be. It's a good job.
Okay, good.
All right. Yeah. In the meanwhile, what will be the impact and what will be the workaround?
The impact and the workaround will be that everyone will have an impact and will be working around her vacancy. But different people have already come forward and will be filling in for different sections of her work.
Will more part-time people be given further hours to, up to 100, the full % of their allowables, or?
It could be that they will have to work more hours on the desk because
just to work the desk. Yes.
We're doing this curbside service is a very labor-intensive project, and Steph was a part of it, and doing her own work. But I mean, this is not the first time we've had a vacancy on this staff.
No, I mean, she's a supervisor, so it's not as though she's just anybody. So yeah, she'll be greatly missed. I think that she'll leave quite a hole. Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I do thank her for all of the work she's done. She's been very effective and in a low-key way. It's really, I think, moved us forward a lot.
Has she left already?
No.
August 31st.
August 31st. Okay, thank you.
For whatever it's worth, we debated what to do as a going away gesture. So we're going to have a socially distanced going away party on that day, the last couple of hours, on the second floor reference area. There are plenty of tables, one chair at each table. We're going to have cake and ice cream. People can drop in between 3:30 and 5:30 if they can take a couple minutes off their shift and have a colleague cover, or if they want to stop by and say goodbye to her. You know, I would normally say you're all welcome, but I don't think under the circumstances I can. But just so you know, she is going to be acknowledged that she's leaving a big hole with us, and we are going to celebrate her.
You don't want to say you'd rather we not come.
No, you can.
That's not
I
what
think
I'm
like
going
you in the building.
I think we were just disinvited, don't you?
I would love for you all to come, but I think the health department would have an issue if I ask anybody outside of the few staff that do come in, you know.
I
You're-
think you come one at a time.
I'm curious, are there any internal candidates for that position?
We won't know yet. We're still in the early stages of what's going on, what will happen.
Probably will agree. I think South Portland's a nice place to go if you're going to go.
Yeah, Wells, yeah.
South Maine, yeah. Nice beaches there.
Anne, you had, there was something mentioned in your report, moving along a little bit, in the children's section that Jessica had created a bookmark with information about non-traditional library materials that can be ordered for curbside. Where is this bookmark? Or is it online, or is it just a real bookmark that you put in bundles, or what? This is on page 7 of the report.
7, okay.
Jessica created a bookmark.
Oh, well, the bookmark is on the webpage, is it not?
I don't know.
Dimitri.
I don't know either, to
The
be honest
bookmark
with
would
you.
be on the webpage, or else she put it out on social media.
Oh, okay. Well,
Or she made an actual bookmark and put it in
My
bags.
sense was it was an actual bookmark that she actually put in the material to go out. That's what I thought. That's why I
Okay.
think I can go
well,
look.
we'll find out. Okay, just
Could
a
be
question.
anything.
And I did want to acknowledge the Friends for making a donation in memory of Greg to the library. I
Yes.
think that was a worthy gesture, and really can't say enough how much Greg will be missed in so many different circles. It just brings it up how many ways he was involved. Okay, I think that if you don't have anything else and no one else has more questions at this point, does anyone else have a question for Anne on the report up to the beginning of buildings and grounds?
Kay does.
Well, I'm not sure where this would fit, but where you discussed the, you know, the curbside pickup, I was wondering if so far there has been any discussion about sort of limited browsing hours like some libraries are doing.
Yeah, I was surprised. I noticed that Wellesley has apparently opened for
Wellesley.
some hours for that.
Wellesley and Natick, probably others.
Wellesley's building is different and lends itself to something like this. Our building is smaller and people are closer together. So far, the Board of Health hasn't said anything about how many people we could let in at one time. We're thinking about it and we're planning it, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Are you redesigning the spaces inside for whenever it does happen?
We've moved a lot of furniture around.
Yeah. And how about like arrows and things like you see at a supermarket or something?
You probably will find those on the floor also, but
Yeah,
we haven't put them down yet.
Yeah.
But places that I've been to have these wonderful little circles that say, stand here. So
For whatever it's worth, Natick has a system, and you could see it on their website. They have a sensor that tells you how many people are in the building, so that when it reaches maximum, it alerts staff. It goes red and says people need to leave the building. I've been checking it today during the day. The capacity is 50, although I think, did the governor not lower that to 25?
Yeah, 25.
They lowered it to a max of 25.
Right. So I haven't seen Wellesley or Natick correct that yet on their website, but I only noticed that 3 or 4 times during the day they had 6, 7, 5, and lest I forget too, that includes staff that are in the building as well. So, and that is something we're talking with Ann, and Danielle and I are talking to our, the company that does, Danielle did some research, the company that does our people counters, have a similar system that can alert us when there's too many people in the building, or a max or cap. So we're looking at that. We're looking at what it would cost to put one, because we're counting staff as well, we would have to put it on the exits and entrance that the staff use too, not just the main door that the public would use. So we are keenly aware, and if I could just, I'll add in real quick, the other 2 libraries that were mentioned, they have a much larger staffing than we do. When we eventually do this, we may even have to look at a hybrid model of, because with the staffing we have right now, we either drop curbside and just do browsing, or we pick one or the other. Maybe we do a hybrid model. There's some libraries in other parts of the country that do 2 or 3 days of curbside and then take a day, close a day to clean up and get caught up, and then do open for browsing for 2 or 3 days. That might be something we might have to look at. So we are discussing and looking at all this and thinking of it, but it's keenly on our minds for sure.
Thanks for anticipating my question on the people counters.
What's that?
Thank you for anticipating my question.
Oh,
The answer on the people counters.
Yeah, no, it counts we got to count everybody, and whoever's in the building, it counts.
Well, how many people are in staff, in terms of staff, how many are in the building at one time now? I know have like team A and team B, right? You don't have.
Yeah, so it varies. Ann, would you say it's 10 to 14?
no, it's probably more than that. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, maybe 15 or a little higher. But
today I counted 15.
Staff. We don't have the whole staff back at any one time.
No.
Keep in mind that limit of 25 is total. It includes the staff.
Right.
Yes.
And am I correct? Am I correct in understanding that they're in the library because they can't do that work remotely?
Yes.
Well, they're in the library to provide services. They're doing the curbside gathering books.
Yep.
That's correct, Jada.
And other work too. I mean, they are doing some of their other work also. We have a huge backlog of reserved books that have come in from other libraries, and slowly but surely we're pecking away at it to get everything moving along.
Yeah, and what happens to books that are returned to Needham for other libraries right now?
Oh, delivery is back in swing. Delivery is doing delivery.
Yep, I got my book.
Actually, today, they put into delivery all the pajamas that were donated back in February and March. They've all been sitting here because all the agencies closed down to which they were going.
Oh.
And we got them all wrapped up today, and they're out in the interlibrary loan room waiting for pickup tomorrow.
Huh. Well, so you say interlibrary loan, but there isn't any interlibrary loan now, is there? It's just for returning things that belong to different libraries?
No,
or is there interlibrary loan now?
I received an interlibrary loan.
Yeah, there is something starting.
So
we may not be in it fully, but we will be shortly.
Yeah,
Well, if you go online, can you order something or not? From if it's not in Needham.
We're not running our hold list here in Needham.
Okay.
If you put it on your hold list, there is a chance that those libraries that are running their hold list will find it. It may take a month to get to us. So it is not quick. That is the one reason why we are telling people that if they see that we own it, give us a call and we'll pull it immediately. But we're not running our hold list. We can't. We're still dealing with the backlog. There's something like 80 crates still waiting to be unpacked, and there is no room downstairs at circulation to deal with them at the moment because they're mostly holds.
I received a book notice this week, which I picked up, which I ordered back in March. which is nice to know that they remembered and then finally it came.
Yeah, I
Don't give up on us.
I did receive one, you know, that was ordered probably in February or March. It finally came through during the shutdown, and I probably got it a month or two ago, but it worked. You know, it worked, but they were ones probably that were already on their way when the shutdown occurred.
Right, and we have this huge backlog of boxes full of books to look through first and deal with first before we can start taking fresh new reserves.
Okay, well, it sounds like a big job. Let's move along, if we can, to buildings and grounds. And as part of your report, you pass along that finally the work was done in the Rosemary parking lot to fix that drain that was sinking, and also to realign the handicap spaces so they aren't, you know, don't include the spot where somebody's cane or something might get stuck in the drain. So that was a positive step. Those had been waiting quite a while. And it's very good to see. I was sure it was true anyway, but that the custodians are doing a lot of disinfecting on a very regular basis throughout the building, keep staff safe. There has not been any more problem with staff infections that you know of, staff member infections?
I would know of them, believe me,
Yeah.
but no, there hasn't been any more problems. I will also report to you some good news. You remember one of the long-running pieces in Angel's report was the broken window on the Rosemary parking lot side. The glass finally came. They had to manufacture the glass, and it's being installed.
I want to ask, like, how many years has that been? It's probably not been years, but it's close to it.
Just short of a year, I would say. Yeah. No, never mind. Okay.
Oh, that's happening. And I see that Angel is going to be going over his list with of work orders with his supervisor. I don't know if that's Barry or
that's Barry,
who it is, but you know, I'll look forward to maybe an updated list next month.
I'm sure he will give us one.
With any kind of annotations he, you know, may be able to make, gleaning from his conversation with Barry about, you know, the likely date of accomplishing each one. That would be a help. Is there anything else on buildings and grounds? Anyone else? Okay, then moving along, financial reports. Anne has put together a proposed or suggested budget for use of trustee funds, state aid funds next year in the current fiscal 21, which started July 1. And we need to take a look at that, discuss it, and we should vote on a budget, even though this can be changed. I think we should adopt something. So I do notice, Anne, in this, the last line, excuse me, the last line, fiscal 18 receipts available for spending fiscal 19. I think just it didn't get updated. That line that it was 30,000. Correct?
Fiscal year 20, it should say
fiscal 20 to
20 and 21.
To 21, yeah.
21, 22 maybe. I'll change that.
Yeah, should be fixed. Kay had written to me, and I had been noticing how, you know, our recently adopted trustee policy on how we spend, how we view state funds should be spent, does not exactly jive with some of these expenditures unless you consider them emergency spending. In that they're really not pilots, they're not new ideas. A lot of them are things that are repetitive. They're things that are very basic expected library services. which we may have asked the town to fund and they have not funded as part of our town budget. And so, you know, I don't know what we do with that. We can't do without these services. We would be doing a big disservice to our community if we chose not to fund them some other way. Although, you know, that would be a show of, I suppose, tough love to the town. That if they don't give us the budget for these budget type things, then, you know, that's what happens. I would not choose that route myself. In that category would be the Overdrive Basic subscription renewal. Overdrive Advantage is no longer funded by the LFN because they do not continue paying for things that are no longer new year after year. And I guess, you know, things like the OCLC WorldCat and well, I guess the Collins Space Center, that really belongs there in my mind. The library services salaries, well, that one is very borderline, I would say. So how do others feel about how this, you know, our policy is written and how this seems to be, you know, needed to spend on these particular things so that we have them?
We're talking about the state aid use policy. I'm trying to find it in my.
Oh, yes.
Some of the items that you're looking at have increased in price due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Whereas budget isn't.
We pay for canopy per use, right? And Overdrive Advantage per use. So the more people want it and use it, the more expensive it is to us. It isn't a subscription in the sense of you pay and then you have unlimited use. Is that correct, Anne?
Right, you don't have unlimited use. It's like the RTS. It's a pay per throw.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had a question. I don't remember, has the town declined to fund Overdrive Basic? And that seems like the most outstanding thing. And also because that is so basic to library operations now. And also, I don't remember exactly what's included in the library equipment and services, but has the town declined to fund those things? Is that why they're in this state aid?
The library equipment and services is a catch-all where any money that isn't dedicated to a purpose sits there, and if something comes up, you would take money out of there to pay for what has come up.
So an emergency fund, sort of an emergency fund.
Yes. The Overdrive Basic subscription has been going up every year. This is the amount of money that you pay to the Minuteman Network for the basic subscription that all the libraries have access to. And then the advantage is only Needham people in the beginning get those books.
Right. And that there were requests for both those things to the town.
Yes, there were.
And neither one went through.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
The language in the state aid use policy statement that describes how the fund should be primarily used for this purpose and not for that purpose. Are those restrictions imposed on us from an outside source, or is that a policy that we've determined for ourselves as to how we created?
Jay, we just created this policy last winter. Because
it sounds that, as a practical matter, that the words of the policy are not entirely consistent with how we're spending the money. It might be as simple as redefining what the policy is that we're comfortable with in terms of how we're going to be spending the money.
Oh yeah, I mean, remember the history was
background.
Sorry, I don't have the background.
Well, the town was asking, or the FinCom was asking for a philosophy. What is our philosophy of usage for state funding? And that this wording was created for us to provide them that. And of course, it was positioning it in a way that says our expectation is some of these things are town responsibilities.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and of course, you know, when they deny, you know, WorldCat and they deny Overdrive Advantage and Overdrive Basic, then what do we do?
Well,
you know?
then what we do is we redefine our state aid policy.
No, I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Do we want to go down to that level? I don't know if we want to retreat to that level, because that really isn't what should happen in our estimation.
Correct.
Really, we're really treating this maybe as an emergency. And because no one else will fund it, we will have to fund it. But this is not what this should be used for.
Our position is this is
I get it. So
basic library services that should be funded by the town.
So then if you're comfortable viewing this as an emergency, then there really is no need to revise the language.
I think that's my view, although, you know, a definition of an emergency shouldn't be one that goes on and is quite predictable year to year to year. In that sense, but we're put in a position where we almost have to treat it that way, I think. And this is a way that we can provide services to the, you know, to the patrons that are expected. They're so central, particularly during the pandemic, but even without the pandemic, this is so central to what we offer, to have electronic resources.
I mean, if we extend this out, I mean, this argument, and we say, well, you know, we're not going to, you know, next year we're not going to fund this, and FinCom doesn't fund it, and then we say, okay, we're not going to offer it, and FinCom will come back and say, well, you've got the money, you could fund it if you wanted to. You're putting pain and pressure on the patrons and so forth, but you've got the money. So that's the nexus of our problem.
But the reality is, though, if you look at the language, it specifically says you won't use it to fund ongoing or predictable operational expenses. And at some point, if we want to use the money and you want to be consistent with the language, you know, maybe you should give some thought as to how to make that work.
Yep.
Well, we're in a process here where we request, the town manager gives a suggested sort of response and a suggested budget. Then the FinCom speaks after listening to each of the boards and departments and their requests. And if they say, we don't favor this, then it doesn't happen, essentially. And we did not make a good case this past time, frankly. And I think you know, it's something we can improve on. You know, we can work on it, be a little more prepared next year. And I think it may not have happened no matter what we did. We might have had the same result. And
realistically, next year is going to be probably a tighter budget.
It's going to be very tight next year. So, so I think for now, the only thing that I might put in as a question mark, and I don't think it's even soon enough to, it isn't soon enough even to put a number to it, but think about whether state funds, state aid to libraries funds could be used to fund at least part of a new website, library specific website, whether they would face the same restrictions as we would face if they were trying to if we were trying to fund it through town funds, and if that is not a restricted source in the same way, then I think that this might be a very appropriate way to spend down that fund a bit.
These are state funds, Carol. They're open to every restriction the town funds are.
And when Rob and I, I'm sorry, I was just going to say,
just a moment. Anne, could you say that once again?
These are state funds.
Yes.
You're talking about, and they are subject to every restriction of law that the local funds are. The town.
So it would face the same problem.
We can't use it for the website.
Could not.
No. When Rob makes his presentation, you'll see that we've identified potential other sources.
Right.
No, that may be true, but we also are looking for ways to satisfy the FinCom by using our state aid funds, and hopefully in ways that we approve of, you know, within our policy.
and I'll dive into this later. The RFP rules probably would apply to state aid. And the website would almost certainly go over the threshold where you have to go through the RFP process, which is not what we want to have to do. And frankly, the town wouldn't, it wouldn't stand a chance if we had to do that. That being said, there are ongoing support services that most web developers provide. And that might be, those would be below the RFP thresholds. And that might be something where if we wanted to spend it on the website, that could be an option, but I'll get into that later.
Those would be annual fees on top of the initial cost to develop and produce.
That would be the repetitive maintenance fee kind of thing. Okay. All right. Let's not linger on that point then.
I just wanted to.
Excuse me. Can I just?
I'm sorry.
Can I just recognize one at a time, because we're talking over each other all of a sudden. Kay, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that before we move on to the web, on the state aid policy, the FinCom came to asked us what our policy was for state aid. We developed a policy. Now we're immediately kind of having to use it for things that contradict our policy. Is there any way for us to communicate with the town and say, you know, this time we're basically putting in for using state aid for these expenses, but these are basic year after year expenses. Our preference, or the trustees have voted to use the state aid policy for new initiatives. Can we communicate in that in some way? What's the appropriate way to do it?
When you visit with the FinCom, your annual meeting with them, that should be made very clear to them.
Does the town have approval over our state aid use policy?
No.
No.
No, we're the policy makers.
No, because different towns use it for different things. Some towns have to use it to make up their shortage in salaries.
But I think that, you know, the FinCom is kind of holding us hostage by, you know, saying we won't approve it because you have this money here set aside that, you know, we're not in charge of, but you're not using for this purpose. We think you should use it for that purpose. And so we will not fund this as part of our your library town budget. I think we do need to decide what we want to, whether we want to go ahead with this. We could have a motion, perhaps, which includes a statement that this is in light of the town's failure to take over certain recurring expenses is our proposed budget for this state aid. I would not mind if someone would care to couch a motion in those terms, and then we'll have our vote. Does anybody care to put that together?
Here.
Excuse me, let's have a motion, and then if there's discussion, then we can discuss.
Well, if this is what we want to do, I would move to accept the state aid account expenditures as proposed, and with the statement that that these things are, several of them are basic annual services that are required for a modern library, and that they do not fit with the new policy the trustees passed on state aid.
I would call them essential services.
Essential services, that's good.
Okay, so do I have a second for that motion? And then we'll have discussion and Danielle can speak. Do I have a second?
Second.
Anybody?
Rick seconds.
Rick, okay, Rick seconds. Danielle, you had something you wanted to?
I just wanted to add, we have Sarah Breen is attending, and I think she had raised her hand.
I see. Okay, I don't see Sarah, but let me scroll.
Guys,
She's not on video.
Moment, please, and I will see about trying to get her to speak.
Thank you, Gay.
Thank you, Gay.
All right. Thanks, Danielle, for, I
Wait,
don't know whether she's wanting to speak to this point.
There she is.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
Where is Sarah?
She's muted.
Sarah, you need
Sarah, could you please unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry. I
Yeah.
was watching, and that was my kitten touching the screen.
Sarah,
I didn't have my hand raised.
Oh,
You
okay.
did not. Okay, never mind.
Sorry.
Well, thank you for
Okay.
being here.
All right.
Interference.
So is there any discussion on this, further discussion, or can I go ahead to a vote? No discussion. All right, so let's go through all in favor. Kay,
Yes.
Rick,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
and myself in favor. It's unanimously passed. Thank you. Next on our statistics, we do not have anything for the trust funds this month. We are going to be waiting, as we always are this time of year, I guess.
Well, you have a trust fund report for through the end of July, but I don't have any report such as the state aid report with what we would like to spend the interest that we may get, because the interest doesn't show up this early in the year.
So there's nothing to propose going forward.
No.
But the regular monthly report here does show what we did spend. I know I signed some, what do they call, purchase orders?
No, you signed the approval of the bills.
Approval of the bills. You can maybe describe this process quickly in a nutshell, but the chair of the trustees signs paperwork that you put in front of them to approve payment of bills out of certain trust funds, whether it's a permanent donation fund, which is where the library, the LFN and the Friends monies come in, as well as maybe some other funds and donations, and these other various funds that we spend out of, often for a particularly a narrow purpose that is stated in the fund profile itself. And then what happens after that, Anne?
After you sign?
After I sign, all that paperwork goes to the...
First I sign it, then you sign it. It goes down to the town hall, to the treasurer. Treasurer brings it to the trust fund commissioners, and they sign off, and then the bills go to the accounting department to be paid.
Okay, so the bills that I just signed recently, that was in August actually, so it probably isn't shown here. They will actually get paid when?
Probably this Friday.
I see. So it isn't so long, because I think it was just last week that I came over and signed those. So not, you know, fairly, these days, pretty quick progress.
We have good people working on them.
Are there any questions about the trust funds or financials otherwise? Okay, statistical report. There's just a little bit in Anne's monthly report about circulation.
All the work that the people who come in to work are doing is getting books for people and putting them in bags and putting them out for people to pick up. It's a little difficult for them to get to do other work too, because our present form for getting books and materials to people is very labor intensive.
Yeah.
So I do not have the whole staff back yet, you know, just in case you don't know, now you do.
Could I ask, I mean, it's still, you know, when you think about this, the June statistics, you know, 13,000 young adult and children items were checked out via curbside pickup. 13,000. If you could post that on Facebook, I'd like to then, you know, post it on the town website, the Needham group website. That's pretty damn impressive, I think.
Yes.
13,000, that's a lot of work. And so I'd like the library to, I'd like people to know that. That, you know, obviously they know it's available, but they don't know how, you know, how voluminous it is.
How high would a pile of 13,000 books go? I think instead of counting the jelly beans, maybe.
Yeah, good idea.
That should be the next challenge, huh? Yeah. Okay, well, so that's a total checkout of 21,000. I don't know how that compares. I didn't check to a typical
That is about half. That's about half of what we would have done under normal circumstances.
Open, but still, it's pretty amazing that we've gotten that much.
Well, these are people who are waiting for 3 months, so it's going to be the first month is going to be the boom.
Right, but it's not all that, Jay, because some of it is people calling in asking for items. Yeah. So it's a mixture.
Yeah. I'm sure I speak for everyone, but I think maybe the trustees should, make a note to the staff how very pleased and gratified we are in terms of their hard work and what they've been able to accomplish under difficult circumstances.
Yeah, I think a statement by us to that effect is a great idea.
Yeah, well, if we'd like to just all voice our recognition at once, say aye, and we will.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Yeah. Hooray for the staff, really doing a great job, obviously. Now, Anne, can we go back to something? You had said, I thought, in a previous meeting that part-timers were up to 80 to 90% of their usual hours?
Yes.
But now you're saying that some staff isn't here at all. So I don't know how to read all that. Can you explain?
Some staff, the part-timers have to be here to get to work, but some of the full-timers can still work remotely.
Yes.
And so they are.
So you're saying that some people are working, but they're not in the building.
Right.
So you say we don't have everybody back. You don't mean they aren't working. You just mean they aren't in the building.
That's true.
I see. Okay.
They're still working.
Okay. So in terms of people that aren't, what percentage of part-timers or part-timers' hours are not?
The crux of the matter is, Carol, I can't have them all back at the same time.
I know that. I know that. So I'm asking you more or less what's the situation, because they aren't being paid for the hours they don't work. I was just curious what is your
Are you talking about full-timers or part-timers?
No, I'm talking about part-timers. You said that
part-timers do not get paid unless they work. So they are back for a good number of their hours and working.
Are all of them back, or some are not back at all?
There's still a few that aren't back at all.
Yeah, because you can't work them into the rotation, or because they can't for other reasons be there?
Various reasons.
Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, I can imagine that there are certain people with higher risks that they really can't come in, can't take that chance. Okay, what's next? New business. Library website. What a lovely topic. Rob, I'm going to give you the floor. I know you've been working with Jay and Kay as well, to some extent Rick. And I wonder if you would let us know.
Sure, there's a lot to update everybody on, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible, but also as informative as possible. I sent out a slide deck yesterday. If anybody has any comments to that, please feel free to send them to me. I won't go through it slide by slide right now. It really follows the presentation generally that we made to Kate and Dave at the last meeting, but it's updated for the outreach and the data gathering that Jay and Kay and I have been doing during the past month. So I'll discuss that quickly. It's been really interesting speaking to other libraries. So First, we created a group of 12 peer libraries. These are all located in the Route 128 corridor, all part of the Minuteman network. And we then looked at their websites, figured out who developed them. That's usually shown right at the bottom of the website. Looked at which ones were best organized, which had the best features, which were the cleanest and easiest to use. And from that, we selected a group of 8 libraries and reached out to them. Reached out to generally their IT people, and got a very good response. I believe we heard back from almost all of them. So
amazingly quickly, it was amazed that they were writing back with detailed answers to a list of questions within a day, or if not hours.
That's something, yeah.
what we found out was that they are very happy with their websites. They're enthusiastic about them. Our first question, and something that there's a lot of sensitivity to right now, is cost. Obviously, we don't want, if there is to be a new website, we don't want it to eat into any other budgeted items. We don't want it to have to come out of town funds, because I think we got the sense that an RFP would just be a non-starter. So it's good to know exactly what kind of a cost we're looking at. And what we found out by talking to these peers is that typically a new website costs between $15,000 and $30,000. That covers the development, migrating all of the information over, so staff isn't doing that themselves. The website developer will actually take any existing or new content, move it over. In many cases, that includes adding any digital archives the library has, even if they're not online already, integrating any electronic resources that the library has. That also includes training staff on how to use the new website. In a lot of cases, they actually create custom videos for staff, which will show them exactly how to update their individual pages. So there's a lot that comes with that other than just laying out the website. So that's the upfront cost. Most of these vendors also offer ongoing support for the website. So what that is basically it's a helpline. So if a staff member has a question about, oh, how do I update this page? Or I want to change that picture, or I want to make that picture bigger or smaller, or I want to add this functionality, they can reach out directly to the developer without going through any intermediaries and get a response within a day. So that's a pretty valuable service. Most of the libraries that we spoke with opted for that, and most said that they were very happy with it, especially when compared to their prior town websites. That typically costs between $2,000 and $4,000 per year, depending on what sort of a plan you get. In terms of where these funds come from, I would say the majority of libraries that we spoke with paid for their websites out of non-budgeted funds. One mentioned state aid, but generally they worked with their friends organization, their foundation, or similar community organizations to raise the funds for their websites. And now that we see the process for that, that makes a lot of sense, because you don't have to go through an RFP process. You don't have to risk that you're going to get the lowest bidder who may not be an expert at creating library websites. And it gives the staff and the library in general a lot more control over the process. So that seems to be the general approach. And I would say that out of the 12 websites that we looked at, all 12 of them were standalone websites that were not part of their town websites. And we think that that shows that it's not just a matter of Civic Plus being not a great platform, but any sort of a town-wide website platform does not lend itself very well to a content-rich website like what a library needs. So we thought that was a good data point, and something that we'd like to go back to Kate and Dave with to kind of show that this is best practice for all of our peers.
And just look at 8 websites. I also spent time not only looking at far more than that, even out of state. I looked at a whole sampling of towns and cities across the country, and almost none of them, I didn't really encounter a single one that was really using its own town or city website. They all have a unique standalone page of all the ones that I clicked into.
So that really helps our case, I think, and that's something that we can point to. One question that we had for each of these libraries, and this is something that we're sensitive to as well, is what kind of a demands does this place on the staff? Because, you know, the last thing you'd want to do with a new website is create something that requires a lot of upkeep or a lot of specialized skills. And that's something that I imagine the town will have a question about, because we don't want to create something that's going to create some sort of a burden or additional staffing needs. What we generally heard was that usually there's somebody at the library who's a general point person for the website who can sort of quarterback things. But in general, the responsibility for updating the website is devolved among all staff members. Generally department heads or somebody within each department will update that department's webpage. And they found that the training for this was very straightforward. It usually, these vendors use WordPress, which is a very simple system for updating the websites. None of them indicated that they needed any sort of specialized training just beyond an initial trainer for staff. So that was good to hear as well. So that's about what we learned from the peer libraries. We then reached out just to gather some data from the website developers themselves, just to see a little bit more about what they do and learn about the process. So we found in looking at these peer library websites that the majority of them were designed by two firms. One is called Sterling Brandworks. The other is called ClearPeak Interactive. Sterling has done about 36 library websites, the majority of which are in the Minuteman network, so they have a ton of experience. ClearPeak is actually founded by a librarian. They're also based in the Boston area. They don't have quite as many websites, but they have done quite a few in the area. Both of their websites generally look nice and have a good layout, and they clearly understand what a library website should have, and they understand how to work with staff at libraries. So it was encouraging to see that there are firms that really specialize in this, which would make it a lot easier so staff wouldn't have to work with a website developer who is clueless about the library's e-resources. In terms of the process itself, usually these developers will start out with community outreach. That's included in their fees. They'll work with focus groups. In this case, it would probably be online. You could solicit input from Facebook and other sources, and of course, working with staff as well to figure out what people want out of a website. They then work to create several mock-ups. They do the coding. They migrate all of the data over. One thing that a bunch of peers told us was that a lot of times in conjunction with a new website, staff wanted to take a look at their web pages and think about what should change, what new content should be added. But that's something that can be done on an ongoing basis as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be done when the new website is put into place. For timing, these vendors indicated that the process from beginning to end usually takes between 3 and 5 months. And that's, given the amount of work that goes into it, that seems like a pretty reasonable amount of time. So that's what we found out from our peer outreach. We were impressed with both of those web design firms. And where this leaves us right now, the biggest question is, in our minds at least, is funding. Assuming that this is something that we all want to go forward with, we would need to fund this out of non-budgeted funds. To that end, we've had some very preliminary discussions. Jay and I and Rick met with Joan and Jan yesterday from the foundation, and Jay has reached out to a few folks on the Friends as well. And of course, these are very preliminary, but in general, and Joan and Jan, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but we've gotten a pretty positive response. And we think that this might be an opportunity for the foundation and the Friends to work together and really have a win-win-win for both of the organizations and for the library.
And for the town, it's a win-win-win-win.
Yes, yes, it should be an all-around win, and quite possibly something that could be close to being final even while we are still in quarantine. I hope we're out of quarantine by then, but there's the possibility of having this in place by the time, by the end of the year, shortly after, if things moved along very quickly. In terms of next steps, obviously we'll want to discuss this at this meeting, and if we are all on board, I would propose a resolution of support, which would help to sort of solidify things moving forward. I think we definitely gained some ground with Kate and David the last meeting, and they kind of saw, I think, visually why our current website has limited functionality and also limited ability to change it. I know that the staff is working on additional training to upgrade the current website, and that's certainly commendable and something that should be done regardless of whether or not there's the new website process. But even if some of these sort of major issues with the current site could be fixed, I think the fact that it's taken, for example, over a year just to reduce the size of the main picture on the front page kind of goes to show that it's very difficult to change the existing site, and it's not very friendly. It takes a lot of staff time, it takes town time, and we have to go through multiple levels of authority to reach the actual developer of the website, to reach Civic Plus and actually get responses from them.
I'm sorry, I would ask the library staff, when you are going through these Civic Plus trainings, that to the extent that during that process you identify other weaknesses with the system in terms of what we might want to do, it would be useful to make a note of that.
The one thing I can add to that is I've been in communication with Terry Wolfson and Roger. I have listed out for Terry Wolfson, and Danielle and Ann know this too. And I may have included you, Rob and Jay, I forget, but I did communicate with Terry. I gave her a list of things that we would like to see corrected, including changing the picture, including all the things that we've talked about. And at this point where it stands is Terry has gotten in touch with Civic Plus, said to me that, let me see what it's going to cost for us to fix these things. So again, Rob, going back to cost and time, they've got a list. They know the things that we're unhappy about. Kate and Dave certainly heard that. They've passed it on to Civic Plus, and now they're waiting, and I'm waiting as of a couple of days ago from Terry to get back to find out what it's going to cost. And then I would assume after that, they're going to let us know if that they can absorb that cost, or they might come back and say, this is what's going to cost. You know, so as soon as I know that, I will share that information. But
so just so that I'm clear, that would mean that as compared to the other arrangement where hypothetically we get funding from an outside source, to stay with Civic Plus would cost more for the town.
It might. So they've heard us, what we're unhappy about. So they're taking it seriously, and they're exploring. You know, Roger and Terry are, it may. You know, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what, I can't ballpark and tell you what the cost would be. It'll be interesting to find out once they come back with that figure and say it's going to be, I don't know, 1,000, or was it a much higher figure than that? I don't know. We'll see. But you're right, Jay. If it's a much higher cost, it would be an interesting comparison to say, so what would be the benefit of paying, say, $8,000 to fix those things as opposed to what we're proposing?
As compared to nothing.
As
compared to nothing of town money. Yeah.
So for next steps, you know, I think that the biggest hurdle here is getting Kate and Dave on board with this process. I think if we can, as Dimitri pointed out, if we can point to the fact that, you know, it's taken this long just to change a really simple thing, there are major functionality issues. We'll continue our discussions with the Friends and LFN. Ultimately, we would hope to speak with them over at some point in the next month prior to the September meeting, and make a presentation to them. And that's actually why we created this slide deck that I sent around. This is really just trying to summarize what the issues are, what our peers do, and how we propose to fix it. We'd like to present that to Kate and Dave. Jay has also suggested that we prepare a letter from the trustees that, again, asserts our support for this process.
Tells the story in sort of persuasive fashion to go along with what the deck lays out in an informational way. And we've been working on a draft of that we might consider to accompany the deck. And, you know, we've been waiting for this meeting, and then I imagine at some point after that, you know, as we get closer, we'll share something for people to review.
Yeah. And if
in terms of timing, I think that certainly tonight is the time to have a resolution in support of this effort, and perhaps selecting, I don't know that we did this actually, but selecting a subcommittee, a website subcommittee, which I would assume would be Rob, Jay, and Kay, to move it along by communicating with Kate and Dave, and also to communicate with possible funders. If Kate and Dave are seem to be heading in that, you know, in agreement that this is a project that, you know, the town would really be fine with. I don't know why they wouldn't be, honestly. Somebody else is paying for an improvement of a town asset without their having to spend a dime, and not even having maybe to spend the money to fix the town website, which would cost something.
I may want to add, sorry, but you know, Rob did really a masterful job of summarizing the whole thing, but we should add that we also had conversations with Dimitri and Danielle, you know, from the library, to make sure that we were all on the same page, and that what we're doing is what the library staff would like us to be doing, that we're, you know, so I just...
You are, and, you know, that helps us. And of course, all we could do from our end is pursue, to Kate's point, you know, we'll see if we can make it work, and we'll see what that will cost, and then we'll proceed from that point on. And I think that's where you folks come in, and you got a great slide deck and a good case, and I hope we can progress from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, you know, my hope is that we can reach out to Kate and Dave at some point in the next month, honestly, even if Civic Plus hasn't gotten back to us by that point, that's okay. That's Exhibit A right there. If we can't get an answer in something that simple within a year, that's, you know, that's just not working at that point. So once we get Kate and Dave on board, we'd hope to then start having more formal conversations with the Foundation of the Friends. They both have their next meetings in September. So we would hope to start nailing down details prior to those meetings, so we could get more of a commitment if that's something that they are amenable to. And then at that point, you know, really I think, and we would speak with Ann and Dimitri and Danielle, more of this would start going to staff, because we would obviously want somebody to quarterback and really help select which firm would be creating the new website.
With us being happy, you know, to be helpful in any way we can. Naturally. The good news is that we met with the principals of two firms, and both of them were very impressive. You know, it was a little bit of apples and oranges, like the range between 15 and 30. I think one of the firms, you know, offered the community outreach with questionnaires and stuff, and that would be, you know, lead to a higher price as compared to, you know, the other firm, which might skip that part of the process. There are benefits to the outreach in the sense of getting the community engaged and taking some ownership of the effort, and so, but that'll have budgetary implications.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would just repeat that, you know, staff support and buy-in and interest is very crucial, and we hope, you know, I'd like to hear actually Ann's thoughts about, you know, what are your thoughts about this going in this direction?
I think you're moving along in the right direction. I really do. And I know that the Friends and the Foundation have worked together before. It brought us all the wonderful upgrades in the community room. That was terrific, and that was much more expensive than a website, I will add. But,
and beautiful.
Yes.
And the wireless upgrade, which was huge. You could not have, you know, you did not have wireless on the third floor of the library until then, which is pretty amazing these days, even to remember that. So
yes, I could be watching you remotely wirelessly, but I'm not. I'm plugged in.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just thinking we should have a resolution. Would anyone care to propose that?
I've actually got something drafted up if you like.
Go ahead.
My only concern, if we form a subcommittee, does that subcommittee then need to have formal meetings and notices?
I think if it's all trustees, it probably does not. That's my sense of it. That up to three people can work together as a small body of the piece of the board. I'm not an expert on that, so I could be wrong, but my sense is it's a little different from, say, the art committee, where there's one trustee and other, you know.
Okay, just wanted to confirm, but.
Or we call it a working group.
A subcommittee.
A gang.
As long as you know 4 trustees, I believe you're all right.
3 trustees would be the limit, right?
Yeah, well, as long as we designate 3 people from the trustees to work on it, I don't really care what we call them, but you would be the website group.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
So my resolution would be to approve the use of the presentation that has been circulated to the trustees as modified by any changes that trustees submit, to set the redesign of the library website as an immediate term goal, to authorize the trustees to prepare a letter to town officials to advocate for the website, and to designate myself, Kay, and Jay as the website working group.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Yeah. Okay, let's go down the list. Kay, and all in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Rob, I assume you. Jay? Jay, you're on board?
Aye. Yeah.
And I am on board. It's unanimous of those present. And so that passes. Wonderful. And I really compliment really all of you that have participated in this really focused effort to get this moving. It's been a long time. We've tried in the past. We haven't had any success, and this is really the most promising that we have seen so far. And I think the COVID situation has really brought this to the fore as how important this part of our resources and services is. Yeah. So wonderful. Is there anything else, Rob, that you would like to?
I think Ann had something.
Okay.
If you have your resolution written out, can you just email me a copy of it?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And email it to Jeff, who's keeping the minutes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, you could, I wouldn't mind if you would just email it to all the trustees. It would be nice to see it before we, wait for the minutes. Yeah.
You'll see it momentarily.
Thank you. Let's move on then. Who's, okay, Tom, what's
I
up?
have a comment. In my half century of being a library trustee, I've never seen such a wonderful work done by trustees. And you 3 rookies are to be commended for this excellent, excellent presentation.
The new kids on the block, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's because we're website addicts.
I think it's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all 3 of you, and Rick too. You've pushed this in the past. Yeah.
Right.
And pandemic policy, and I haven't seen anything, and I know we need one.
It is a work in progress. How about letting me know exactly what you want in this policy?
Well, I assume that there probably is a lot of material out there, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but each town, I mean, we have to abide by the local rules and health department protocols. So it can say that. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't.
I already have it saying that.
Yeah, and I know Anna had asked, well, is our guidelines for patron behavior, will that address face masks, in the wake of the pandemic? I think that probably all these things that sort of supersede our usual guidelines or protocols really should be in the pandemic policy. And that would override these other typical policies about anything else that goes on at the library. Is there any other view on that? This should be on another level from this is sort of between our usual policy making and the town powers and authorities, the health authorities, state as well as local.
Do you expect it to contain a plan for reopening, or?
I would not, no, except to the extent that, when there is a pandemic, certain things may have to happen, such as, shutting down and You know, there may be reopening plans that may include, you know, curbside only, or,
Yeah.
and I think you have plenty of models out there.
And I'm on the right track with what I'm doing.
That's my sense of it. Are there other things that people would like?
I know we talk specifically about pandemic, but you know, we could talk about just all general
Emergencies.
Emergencies to keep it general. I mean, obviously there's some specifics in terms of pandemic, and it has to be general because each different potential circumstance would require a different type of response.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to be kind of high level in terms of, you know, in general, what
What
do we do?
I think we do have a disaster plan, don't we? Do we still have a disaster plan?
We do.
Dimitri, that's something you were.
I was in the middle of working on that with Danielle when all this, so we have an older one and we were trying to revise it.
Did the disaster plan cover if Tom Brady leaves the Patriots? Was that
As one who is not a Patriots fan, I can't respond to that. I plead the fifth.
Not a disaster, huh? Is this something you can just bring to us next month?
Sure.
Good. Okay, so let's move on. Equity and inclusion resolution. Dimitri, you were going to report for us a little bit about what has happened. You and Anna and I had a Zoom meeting.
I've shared that spreadsheet. I think you've all seen it by now or have had access to it. It's been very well filled out. If you had an opportunity, every day I save a copy to my own computer so that I have a copy of it, just in case, as Anna was concerned that might get wiped or, you know, inadvertently somehow deleted. But it's been pretty well filled out, I think, considering how many programs and how many things that staff and some trustees attended. And again, like I said, it's a public meeting, so I don't want to bring up names specifically, but you have access to it. You can take a look at it. It's pretty well filled out. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I should hope many of you, if you've looked at it, would be as well. And go ahead.
I was hoping that maybe we could talk for a minute about what the process will be, since it's our expectation that this will be a regular part of our agenda to report on this.
So what would you like to know about it? You know, what?
Well, for instance, our resolution had 3 areas of where we thought we ought to really push harder. Redouble our efforts, I think was the term we settled on. But one was on programming for equity and inclusion and what programs we offer. I assume that means to our patrons. Another was materials. Another was staff training. So it would be nice to be able to, you know, put a number to how many things happen in each area, or what happened more or less. You know, there were lots and lots of listings of courses that staff or trustees attended.
So Carol, under those 3 bullet points that we discussed when you and Anna and we all met, I can make a more formal report next month and sort of break it up like that, the categories, and sort of summarize it like that. Right now, I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to take that spreadsheet and break it up like that.
Yeah.
Which specific areas, but I can do that for next month, for September.
You know, and how many, there are postings for things on Facebook. You know, there are things entered there, but there are different types of, there are sort of different categories. I don't know, maybe you can make some more, like 3 more columns, and somebody puts a check mark into this goes with this bullet or that bullet or the 3rd bullet.
Let me take a closer look at it, and then.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do that where it isn't going to require any more of staff filling it out, and wouldn't be a big to-do to come to a statistic at the end of the month, but ahead of a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, thank you very much for putting that together.
Hi, Dimitri, so I got your email saying you were going to send a Google Doc, but never received the Google Doc. So
you never got it?
Nope, I just double checked.
Okay.
And so anytime that you have a chance.
I'm sure. Is there any, let me ask, is there anybody else here who has not gotten it or hasn't gotten access to it? Or do you all pretty much have access to it?
I received.
Same.
Okay. So, Kay, I'm sorry about that. I'll get it out to you later tonight.
Okay. So we're moving on to strategic plan and trustee goals in the staffing area. Rick has sent out his report. Thank you very much, Rick, for pulling yourself from one topic to another in the strategic plan of your focus. I had a chance to read it. I don't know if others did, but let me just have you say a few words at least about your report.
Yeah, when you was putting this together and I was compiling it, I didn't think I would have a report that's 11 pages long, but it did. And that's a testimony to the fact that even during the time of the library, in much of the time, the library operations being hindered because of COVID, that didn't stop the staff from taking advantage of that and really devoting a lot of time to taking advantage of development. As you can see, over those 11 pages, so much of it is staff, signing up for seminars and so forth. So that will pay big dividends once the library really begins, opening up again in terms of support to our patrons, with the additional augmenting of staff background. So, I'm not going to go into it in very much detail. I think the initial goals in terms of a high-level strategic view of approaching staff development, was slated for FY20, and the difficulties is, that's been stymied with COVID, and obviously all the additional manual activities that have to occur with curbside pickup and the limitations that we have. So that's really eliminated things. But I think it is something that we have to address probably in the next strategic plan, because, it's to a testimony to the staff of their interest in staff development, from, looking at courses that they are interested in. But I think we have to sort of look at, what we'd call, and again, this is my HR background, but a gap analysis in terms of looking at, what do patrons expect? What should we be providing for services? Do we have the requisite staff training to be able to provide these services? So looking at it at a much more higher level, and then being able to determine what areas we need to focus on that we don't have as much expertise on. That's something that we had planned to do. Obviously, you can see that in the goals, for this period. But with COVID, that's not going to happen. But I think it's important to set the direction in terms of where we need to go, in the future. So I mean, I think the report speaks for itself in terms of what has been accomplished, and a lot has, and then Dimitri's work in terms of staff development and camaraderie and so forth, gone a long way in terms of the more social aspects, in terms of getting the staff together on a more informal basis. I mean, in terms of staff meetings, but also on an informal basis, because I don't remember that happening. It may have happened a lot, but it may not have just been mentioned. But it's obviously something that it's new to me since Dimitri has come on board in terms of pulling together staff socialization, I guess is to call it.
Thank you. We used to enjoy it before March, and we had one planned for the end of March, but that kind of got thrown off.
Yeah. So I don't know, questions from what you've seen in terms of the report, although you haven't had much time to do it since I only sent it out this morning.
Well, I had one thing, Rick, that I mentioned to you is that I just thought overlapping with the website effort, not to be a broken record, but your goal 6, objective A, evaluate current organizational structure related to staff positions. I thought, you know, that's an important thing to address as the new website. We don't want the website to be sort of orphan. It has to find a home and, you know, have a point person and a structure of who will do what going, you know, so I just wanted to see that as an opportunity for, you know, moving forward.
That brought up another point, something that we would want to think about as a trustees. Obviously, the Needham Library relies a huge amount on part-time staff, probably more so than many of our other comparable libraries. And although that is great for the town in terms of managing expenses and so forth, it really restricts the staff, the full-time staff, from being able to do stuff, and it restricts the library from being able to do some things too. So when we look at staff, if we have staff goals as part of the next strategic plan, we should be looking at that in terms of, you know, what is the plus and minuses of having a staffing structure as we do today. And is it optimum to do that? It's maybe optimum from an expense standpoint, but what is the limitations that cause in terms of being able to provide services and be able to do the things that, have the staff do the things we'd like them to do, because they are limited in time, because there's only so many full-time staff.
Yeah, I think that it's sort of also, there is a certain advantage to part-time staff, or maybe a necessity, you might say, for part-time staff up to a point, just because you have to have people staffing the desks at all the time that we're open, when we are open. And so you need to have to fill in this little cranny and that little cranny. And, you know, it means that, you know, no full-time staffer can be there the entire time that the library's open, because we're open so many hours typically. So there is a certain advantage to the library having, up to a point, some part-timers. So I'm sure we always would have part-timers, but the question is, can we add, you know, incrementally, can we add to our full-time staff where that would be a better result for the library and for our patrons?
And I do want to commend Dimitri and Ann. Just it shows, based on the number of, you know, trainings and seminars that our staff, full-time staff, attend, you know, the fact that we allow them to do that is commendable, because, you know, obviously there's pressure to service the patrons in a limited amount of time, but still, and then also staff doing it probably on their own time too. So the staff is to be commended on that as well.
Yep. Okay, Rick, is there anything else you'd like to add on the staff? Anyone else? And then we'll move on if not.
Yeah,
Martin,
just to Kay's point, and I think Dimitri's already done that. Kay's made a good point that obviously this report is public record, and I only used first names. Kay had suggested first name, last name, and title, because there could be, you know, the public viewing it, so that the staff would get full credit for, you know, who they are and what their positions are. So, yeah.
But that is not that's not the best approach because of what?
No, it's not that. I'm commending it in that we've actually, I think, Dimitri, you've added that to the document.
Yeah,
so
I did.
Yeah, so it's available for everybody, so people can recognize the staff and what they've done.
Good. Let's just go run through marketing and outreach. I don't imagine there's, well, I don't know. Is there anything on that? Okay. Diversity programs. I think we're going to mention that there is this program that's being offered in Newton.
Tomorrow
night. I know I've signed up for it. I'm kind of curious what this is. It's a lecture, and it's called on the book Overdue, and the author is professor at VU.
He's at BU now, yeah.
Yeah, newly created.
Yeah, so that might be interesting. I think you all have the link if you received that.
I have signed up for it. I registered for it, but I did see they are limiting it to, there's a limit.
1,000. They're limiting it to
1,000 people? Okay.
Yeah.
And Zoom limits, I think, the total amount you can,
Okay, because the other thing, today I did a webinar, and I guess some people can't. I was the 98th person to get in, but I guess people afterwards didn't get in.
Okay, well, let's keep going here. Is there anything on one book? Are we just gonna, okay, let's go right by that one. Facebook comments?
Nothing to note, although I did have a question, and Dimitri maybe to answer that. You know, I know it was originally the policy of the town that the library could post to the, post as the library, but they could not post to any other group in town. And I thought I heard that we could post, like the library could then post to the Needham group. Is that true or not?
I think that's true. Danielle, you may know a little bit about this, but I thought Stephanie and Sarah maybe went to the new public information officer, Cindy Roy Gonzalez, has given us permission to be able to post on, I think, Danielle, does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, I believe the town library Facebook page can post to the Needham MA.
Yeah.
I believe that Cindy gave us permission to do that. I'm not sure if it has to be, on a, permission by permission basis.
I think it's some designated folks from the library, like Steph, like Sarah, and one other person I forget now, that we don't have to get permission. We could do it. Of course, unless we have some doubts about whatever the topic is, we want to run it past her.
But the reason I ask is, as you know, I relay post every library post to the town website. So if it can go direct, then you take one person out of the, out of the loop, which would be me. I also post I'm the LFN person for LFN, so I post things to the LFN.
I would say, Rick, there's no such thing as over posting. Keep doing it, unless you don't have time or you don't want to, that's fine. But I wouldn't be worried about over posting. It's okay.
No, I was wondering if I can get out of doing it, but I can still do it.
But best for the staff to go ahead and do that posting, and then if Rick does it as well, so that's great. But
yeah,
you shouldn't hesitate to go ahead and post it.
No.
As staff. Okay, capital planning space needs, there really is nothing current. I do not have the revised appropriate patron behavior policy back from Anne. I made revisions to it since the last meeting, and I think it's hung up. Anne has been overwhelmed with other backlog of paperwork. And this is ditto for the children's room, children in the library policy. By the way, I think that appropriate patron behavior policy will take the place of the guidelines for use of the public library, and also the cell phone use policy. So those will go out the window when we adopt a new appropriate patron behavior policy. The children's STEAM center policy, I would like to move along with, if we can, just because it's been waiting for attention. If we can do it fairly quickly, because we are going to run out of time, and I don't want to shortchange the LFN topic if there's something to talk about there. Are there any comments on this proposed policy? I believe you all received it, correct?
Yeah.
As part of your packet, yeah. So
I have one comment.
Yes.
On the last page, the STEAM Center may also be unavailable at the discretion of the children's room staff. Then it says patrons will be asked to leave the STEAM Center if they, and then all these ifs, right? And some of these are, you know, like the one, if materials are suspected of being stolen or damaged. Just suspected or what? You know, just, that doesn't seem clear to me.
Well, if they're missing something, but they haven't seen anybody take it.
Yeah, but they're suspected.
Then there's,
you know,
maybe
like,
there's little suspicion in there.
yeah, I think this is suspected, just a suspicion, you know, nothing's proven, you know, innocent until proven guilty or whatever, but I just think it's, I think we don't even need to have that all stuff because all the other stuff is covered in our other policy, the one we just mentioned, right? About boisterous behavior and
well, Tom, it doesn't say we're going to kick them out. It only says we're going to ask them to leave.
that's right. Yeah. And if they don't,
Call the police.
Okay, well, I would not mind if we either removed the stolen part or being removed, or we could say being removed without saying stolen.
Yeah, or missing.
Yeah. If materials are missing.
If we have probable cause to believe.
No, I don't think so. Let's not do that.
But just if materials are missing or damaged.
Yeah.
Just plain
Yep.
missing or damaged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
no, I don't.
That doesn't address Tom's concern, I don't think.
There's no suspicion then.
There's
There
no
is
suspicion, but
damage.
materials are missing or stolen, right?
No, we take stolen out.
Damaged or damaged.
Missing, if materials are suspected of being stolen or missing or
No,
damaged?
no. If materials are missing or damaged, period.
Well, that's worse.
Why?
If materials are missing, well, who?
There's not an
Patrons,
obvious connection.
the patrons we have to leave if things are missing?
Yes.
Are we
because
accusing them of
it could be that there's
taking
no
them?
If there's no materials to be able to use, then you can't use the machine.
Yeah. If materials are missing, we have to leave the steam center if materials are missing or damaged. That's what you want to put in, right?
Yeah.
Can I just say, in some ways, you're really saying if the materials are misused, and that's part of the sentence above it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I'd say I'd get rid of that line completely.
Yes.
Then I think you should put equipment in there as well, in furniture, equipment, supplies.
Well, it says before, it says if furniture, supplies, robots, or other materials are not being used in careful and considerate manner. Then, if materials are suspected of being stolen or if materials are missing or damaged.
So you think the first sentence takes the place of the
I think if we think someone stole or damaged, I think they would be breaching the not using it in a careful and considerate
manner. Yes.
So I guess I think that's a good comment. If you are go along with that, Anne. I think in that previous one, we probably should add in equipment, furniture, equipment, supplies, because there's equipment other than robots.
Well, there's a space for it.
So I would like to add equipment.
Okay, so if furniture, equipment, supplies, robots, or other materials are not being used in a careful and considerate manner, and then take this whole suspected of being stolen or damaged out, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Any other comments on this?
A lot of this is very vague. If children are not exhibiting enough maturity to use this center independently and are not being adequately supervised, that's fairly vague.
You know, I think there's going to have to be judgment calls by staff that are seeing how children are using this this area, this equipment, and they need to be allowed to make judgment calls on this. I think that's my sense of it. And if it means that that a parent thinks that their kid was perfectly fine, their little angel was perfectly fine, even though they were doing something that struck the staff member as likely endangering the equipment. Well, that does happen. My sense is we should protect the center to some extent. We're not incriminating these users. We're just asking them to leave for then until they mature a little bit. Is there any other input on this policy?
So that sentence stays then?
I would leave that in.
Okay. Yeah.
I would personally. I think
I don't have any problem with it either. I think it's meant for the youngster who's a little too young to be in there and is probably running around and not treating the pieces in there like they should be treated.
But there was a policy before about the age, the 6-year-old and the 5-year-olds and things like that. So
there is
not children are mature at different ages, so.
Yes, and that's
immature at different ages too.
Well, it's always maybe unavailable at the discretion of the children's room staff. So there's all kinds of discretion there, and I think you get into trouble when you start listing things.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean the option would be to just close the STEAM center? As opposed to
his options to put
and
that.
The last two are I character as duh. If the STEAM center is closing or the library is closing, yeah, that's a good idea that they'll be asked to leave. But I think that's duh.
I think then we want to be able to make them leave.
Yeah, duh.
Tom, so your thought is that the STEAM center may also be unavailable at the discretion of the children's room staff and take all this other wording out.
No. I think you need some, ideas, but I think everything after the one if furniture, supplies, robots, and other materials are not being used in a careful and considerate manner, and you added equipment before.
Yes.
But I think all the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ifs can be gone.
I don't disagree with you, Tom. On the more I look at it, yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's
done.
Approach. Okay, so we'll remove those. We'll shorten the policy, save some trees and ink. Who's speaking? Who is speaking? Was somebody trying to speak there? No. Okay. May I have a motion as to this proposed policy as we've just amended it? Anybody?
I'd make a motion to support that.
Any second?
Second.
Where was that?
That was me.
Rob? Okay, thanks. All in favor? I'm going to run down the list. Kay?
Yes.
Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
And me, I am in favor. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Mark that as approved with those changes. Okay, moving along. Art and Exhibits Committee, Kay?
Yes.
Anything? I know I'm meeting with you tomorrow morning.
Right. Yes. So
coordinated.
We have we'll get started. I haven't launched into anything yet.
Okay.
Let's find out what to do.
Okay, we'll move on. McIver. There is Anna is probably going to put together at least one virtual speaker. But let's go to the Friends. Is there anything, Jay, do you know, or?
No, other than there's a meeting scheduled for September, and I anticipate at that point we'll be following up with them concerning the website. But
Okay, great, great. Now, Library Foundation.
I have one question about Friends, dear.
Yeah.
Someone asked me today that we should urge, as part of the reopening plan, that the Friends book sales situation can be helped as well, because that's how they make their money. And if we're looking to have them help fund the website, I think it's an important thing to help them have money to do it.
well, I know. I mean, they do have, funds in a bank, but at the same time, when I raised the issue, when I spoke with Bruce Barnett, the chair, he anticipated that some members of the Friends will express concerns because their major money-making activity is on hold. No question.
Yeah, and it's possible that it may be a more appealing possibility to fund the maintenance, which would be a future, more or less future annual expense for a while.
Again, I don't think it was raised as to suggest that they're not interested in actually potentially sharing all the costs. I sensed strong support and a desire and willingness to be part of the effort. So
oh, good. All right.
It's just something that was identified as may be raised when they consider it in the full board. Though my expectation is that the board will strongly, if not unanimously support the request.
Okay, super.
Carol, can I answer Tom's question to a certain extent?
About the book sale?
About the book sale, the community room is currently unavailable through the end of the year. It is where we are storing furniture. It is where we are currently quarantining books. I do not expect that it's going to be empty much before the end of the year. So there is no location present in the building itself for them to put on a book sale. I do know that there's potentially a very large collection that they will be getting at some point this fall, but at this point, there is no way for us to receive those books and quarantine them, which is what we would have to do if they come into the building.
Yep.
Understood.
Yep. Okay, Library Foundation, Joan and Jan.
Hi, we're meeting also in September. I did send out a little general email to the board this afternoon, and I received 3 positive responses. One was, and then one was a little negative.
As the website development or what?
Yes, regarding the website, just to get a sense, because Jan and I can't really speak for the board. I mean,
no, of course not.
Sort of. And I just have a question. When can we share the slide deck? Because we certainly want to share it with the board before we meet in September.
So I've gotten some comments. We've got it approved now. So, I could send it over to you this week if that would work.
Okay. I know you already sent it to us, unless it's changed.
That was a draft. There were just a few typos, things like that.
Okay.
So I can clean that up. And if anybody else has any other changes, just let me know. But we'll get that over to you as soon as possible. And then Jay and Kay and we're happy to meet with folks ahead of the September meeting to address any questions, thoughts they might have.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose the same could be said for the Friends, for that matter.
That's right. I had some preliminary conversations with not only Bruce but a couple of others. But of course, when they consider it as a full board, people will have their various comments.
All right. Well, thank you. Is there anything else for the foundation? I know it's a quiet time over the summer.
I just wanted to ask, Joan did say she heard some positive and some negative comments. Can you
well, 3 responded that yes, we definitely need a new website. But then we saw one response was, well, do we really need a new website? And I said, which I did this afternoon. I've never done it. I went on to Wellesley, Newton, and Natick, and I said, wow, yes, what a difference.
And I think their concerns or questions are hopefully will be addressed by not only the deck but the letter that accompanies the deck, which hopefully will make the case.
Right.
When you see what another kind of website can do, it becomes very clear what our website is not doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Any trustee comments? Well, it is 8:57. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. Second?
Second.
In favor? I won't go down the list. I'll do a voice vote on that one.
Any opposed?
I'll do a voice vote on that one. Yeah, any opposed? I'll listen. Nope, I don't hear anything. Any opposed? Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. It's good to see you.
Happy everyone.